Super Mario World is probably the easiest game of all time. If speedrunners can beat it in under 10 minutes, how can it be hard? Like with all things in life, if you want something hard, you've got to take matters into your own hands. Can you beat Super Mario World without running? See that title? That one on your screen right now? Yeah, that was clickbait. I am doing a without running playthrough, but that's not all I'm doing. I attempted a couple different Mario's World challenges earlier this year, and they were all too easy. To spice things up, I thought it would be interesting to try a Super Mario World game without attacking any enemies, or at least as few as possible. But if I can't attack enemies, it wouldn't make sense for them to be able to attack me either. So taking damage is not allowed either. And if I can't take damage, because damage would cause me to restart the level, power-ups should be disregarded as well. That's right, I'm doing exactly what you think I'm doing. The often contemplated but never considered illegal and immoral quadruple challenge run. Can you beat Super Mario World without taking damage, without attacking anything, without using any power-ups, and without running? Before we get to that though, a quick word from this video sponsor. Hell, it's where I'm about to be. Alright, game time. Up first is Yoshi Island 1, where I became enamored by these checkpoint poles. Something about them was fascinating to me. I almost immediately failed by running while holding a Cooper shell. The issue here is that the run button is the same as the rip the turtle shell off button. The only way to move forward with an item is to tap the D-pad. Also, because no power-ups, checkpoints are off limits as well. A good mother knows there's no such thing as too much pain. This level also brings up another issue. What counts as attacking? This bouncy guy could not be avoided, but jumping on him does not give you any points. That said, I still disqualified it that first time, which bit a large chunk out of my ass down the line. One last thing before the real game begins, I decided, with everything going on, to cheat. I allowed myself to save after every level. If I beat a level, I beat it. That's good enough for me. Future failures aren't going to disqualify past successes. After accidentally killing the Hey Arnold headball guy and doing the level over, I was on to Yoshi's Island 3, a fairly easy level. Having activated the yellow switch block would have given me an advantage, but the jumps are still manageable. You just have to put more thought into it and really believe in yourself. Yoshi's Water World was another easy one. The sand balls in the desert were a non-issue. These Koopas required some precise movement, that's it though. The first castle has you climbing on a fence throughout the first half. No reason anything here should be difficult. Same goes for the elephant stomping room. Stick to one edge of the screen at all times, send Mr. Teeter-Totter down into the liquid abyss, and it's on to World 2, also known as the world where becomes real. Donut Plains 1 introduces you to two kinds of baseball dads. Those that throw balls, and those that spit fire. They're melodramatic on their own, but when working together in holy union, they will fuck your day up before you can say, why did God take mom so soon? Oh, remember that quick save thing I mentioned? I didn't start doing that right away. Early on, the levels didn't necessitate it. It wasn't until I got to Donut Plains 2 where that happened. This is the level where the real game begins. These auto-scroll levels always suck pelvis. Anytime you can't attack anything or take damage, you must be especially mindful of all the enemies. Don't walk right into them. The trick that I learned after like 8 minutes is to stay inside the first crusher part with the beetle so it'll fly into the parrot and get turned around so it doesn't kill you. Avoid the other birds and whatnot, give a middle finger to the football, and you're on to the first ghost house. Honestly, nothing too hard. Simple puzzles a bottle of water could solve, just to get you acclimated with the idea of using your brain for the first time in your life. Donut Plains 3 is about the same. Hit a couple buttons, ride a few platforms, jump over the angels, easy peasy. Now Donut Plains 4. This is where the real game begins. What I mean by that is that this level took me 25 minutes to beat. Without running, you can't get enough height to clear this pipe. At least that's what an idiot would believe. You can jump on the Litterbug's platform and stand on it with him without dying. The space you've got is actually bigger than you'd think. There were also a bunch of little mistakes I made throughout the level, like accidentally landing on an enemy or missing a jump. The hard bit comes after the checkpoint I didn't get. The special Goombas are parachuting down onto the battlefield and are tricky to avoid. If you're like me, the first few times you'll probably go slow and try to jump around them all individually. that. If you do that, you're an idiot. The way you're supposed to do it is to use the slopes to achieve ungodly speeds and steamroll by all the bad guys like the toy train you were always meant to be. Then there's the last part. More paratroopers and a hammer guy levitating over the precipice of oblivion. The trick is to let the ODSTs mindlessly fall off the edge before you jump onto the moving block and finish the level. Morty's Castle is another easy level. Take it slow. Don't get caught in any corners. Try to not let the boss get onto the ceiling. I think that's what he would do. I'm such a good gamer that I never had to find out. World 3 takes us to the Vanilla Battle Dome, where things take a turn for the worst, because this level is where the real game begins. There are no possible ways to get through this block beetle section without killing at least one beetle. You can try to make the blocks do somersaults to jump over them, but you'll either land on the platform above, land on the beetle, or take damage. The only option is to take one of these shells, use it to kill the first beetle, get into the third box, hit the beetle above to turn it into a projectile, and use it to bust a hole in the wall on the left or on the right. Trust me, this was much harder than it looked. So, you cannot beat Super Mario World without attacking anything, and, as luck would have it, the next area would fail the without running portion of this challenge. Simply put, you can't clear the lava without using the Power Star and running. That's actually 3 out of the 4 challenges ruined already. I'm sure you can see why doing just one of those would have been too easy. There's also this jump that can't be bypassed without either hurting the Koopa or running. Looking back, spin jumping on the plant thing might have worked too. The worst part of Vanilla Dome 2 is dealing with this Magikarp. Touching it will kill it, and getting it to flop itself into the water takes a longer time than you can possibly imagine. Jumping over it worked the first time and then never again. Shocker. The rest of the level has some possibly difficult sections with quite a few enemies involved, but trial and error will get you through it. Next up, another ghost house. This level only took a while because I couldn't really remember what exactly you had to do the first couple times I played it. Really not that difficult. Vanilla Dome 3 is a sort of auto-scroller where you ride a platform, a kid's level really, except for the part where you've got to run up this wall to progress. That part is what Godzilla would describe as not very cash money. Don't worry, I'm slowly getting up to date on my memes. You guys are in for a world of hurt when I figure out what a Ugandan knuckle is. Run up the wall to fail again, ride the skull some more, ignore the pointy head guys, and you're on to Vanilla Dome 4. With this level, the real game finally begins. If Fallout 4 is the 15-minute man, this level is the 22-minute man, because that's how long I spent here. Why? Well, it's probably the most flaccid level in this entire game. The tree appendages allow you to bounce, but the bullet Williams come flying out of f***ing nowhere and ram themselves inside your ass. If you're not accidentally landing on one of them, they'll kill you. The platforming itself isn't difficult. It's all the enemies in your path. You're just gonna have to brute force your way through it. Take the damage to learn where the enemies are, and try to avoid it for the next go around. The castle of World 3 was interesting. Believe it or not, the witch was actually kind of a cunt. But, and this was news to me, if you're both on the same level, you can usually dodge her algebra attack by going prone. In the level's second half, you're parkouring on moving blocks in lava again. It's a little harder because of no running, not by much though. The only difficult part is this group of skeletons and the boss itself. The fireball can sneak up on you if you're focused on the pipes. On the border to Cheese World, I braved the bridge, rode some platforms, played on the rope swings, and that was that. Cookie Mountain is another fun one. These fucking moles are the nightmares incarnate. At an obese man's pace, you cannot outrun these 4 moles. If you get them all down onto the lower level, there are no actions you can take to get past them. It's just a simple fact. It can't be done. Now there is a secret exit in Cheese Bridge, but it requires going beyond the goalpost, something I can't do without any power-ups, which meant I had to kill the moles. Nothing of value was lost, and God punished me for that with the rest of the level. This level single-handedly killed my interest in beating Minecraft as Mole Man. There's just so many moles and they're so hard to avoid. I hate them so much. The level ends with these guys and another section that cannot be circumnavigated without failure. I couldn't get around them no matter what I did, so I bit the bullet, killed one, beat the level, and was on to Lugnut's castle. In my first attempt, I thought it a bad dream come to life. On the second, I figured out how to dodge these spike balls. But what you can't dodge are spike balls plummeting towards the carpet at Mach 6. You can see, with the amount of ground that had to be covered, that there was just no way to make it all the way through this without running. The ascent towards Ludwig is just a few fences. Pay the ferry to sail to Attention Island, and you'll have no problems. Ludwig isn't a real threat, as long as you move him to the left as quickly as you can. Otherwise, he might attack from off screen. With another brother brutally murdered, I entered World 5, the Forest of Illusion. The first level in this world isn't terrible. The wigglers require finesse and a mother's touch to be able to jump completely over. There's also this jump that you can't make without getting a checkpoint. I tried it several times and made no progress. I accepted it, used the Koopa to immediately make myself small again. Yeah, that failed 2 challenges again, but being small the entire time is another challenge. Also, there's that flying hammer guy from earlier. Well, he's back, but this time he's pretending to be Nestle and is just dumping all his used wherever he wants. So you can't ride Mr. Hammer the way you could when you were younger. He throws hammers out too quickly to be able to survive. More failure and whatnot. If you're wondering about secret exits, I'll get to them bitches in a minute. Forest of Illusion 2 is an underwater level. Pressing B helps you go faster, but you can still move fairly quickly without it. Forest of Illusion 3 is a bit of a clusterfuck. The Axis of Evil realized the importance of preserving our environment and swapped out parachutes for biodegradable bubbles to fly in their troops. I did die here a lot, and it felt like it took a long time, but 10 minutes ain't bad for a level in this game. The clusterfuck part comes from the secret exit. It's the real exit. Taking the big one at the end of the level sends you up to the haunted mansion rather than down into the next world. Father Elijah almost had it right when he said finding it isn't the hard part, it's letting go. He was right. Finding it isn't the hard part, it's getting in. See the issue here? The little red bastard is too much of a beta male to be able to break these blocks. If he took his vitamins and drank his hot dog water, he wouldn't have been in this mess. Suffice it to say, a mushroom is required to advance. I'm fairly certain now that every challenge has been deemed a failure, but knowing me, they're probably all possible and I just suck. Roy's castle has you ride the giant brown worm through a pit of spikes. You walk fast enough to keep up, it's fine. The next room isn't. You've got 3 things to keep track of, 4 if you include Mario. The shape-shifting platforms, the flying fireballs, and the dinosaur projectiles. Not hard, you just need to take it slow. I found that doing a spin jump as Roy falls can protect you from damage, so the fight is fairly easy. World 6 takes us to Chocolate Island. Level 1, just like all other first levels of new worlds, was alright. It introduces you to new enemies, the very slopey landscape, and the frequent use of human projectiles. The ghost house was made significantly easier when I learned that you can spin jump on most of the ghosts to avoid damage and get some nice height. The albino wielding holy fire is really annoying though. Chocolate Island 2 is rough, because it's where the real game begins. The first third, leading up to the pipe, is nothing. After that, it's something. It's fitting that I'm in Chocolate World because this is my own little slice of hell. This is an amazing example of something that would be infinitely easier with the ability to run or jump on enemies. The difficulty comes from the distance between some of the platforms and the parrots obstructing your path. There are really only like 4 jumps here that are actually difficult, but having to do multiple in a row increases the likelihood of failure at some point. Then you just ignore some mushrooms, jump carefully on the edge of a spring, and Chocolate Island 3 is finally here. This level is like that one from earlier with the rotating platforms, just cranked up to 1,000,000,000. It's more tough jumps with shit in your way. Something I noticed in my dozens of resets was how the platforms would sometimes become out of sync, let's say. Platforms A and B might share a window in attempt 1, but in attempt 2, B and C might share one. It makes it difficult to learn from your past mistakes if the level can change each time. Then there's the fact that just like Forest of Illusion 3, the first and most obvious exit takes you through a loop. To get to the castle, you need to fly. You might be able to get up there with a suicidal dismount from a living Yoshi, but I figured a cape would be a surefire way to do it. Went back to Donut Plains 1, killed a fly for his fly, beat the level with it, and returned to Chocolate Island 3 with a new predicament. Holding A as you jump increases your jump height, but doing that with the cape will make you glide. Unless you jump straight up, let go at the max height, then fall in a direction, you're going to glide at least a little bit. My first instinct was to minimize the gliding as much as I could. Then I realized it didn't really matter. I'd already beaten the level level in a much harder situation, and one way or another, I've got to get to the end with a cape. So I said, F it, and played like a normal person who still couldn't take damage, attack anything, or run. With the secret exit found, I entered Chocolate Fortress. The 5-block jump without running is a bit of a doozy. Then there's another one right after it. Dual-wielding fire spitters, a thwomp family gathering. Don't worry, you can just jump on the babies. The hallway with 4 of them might be tricky if you try to jump on them all. Jumping on all of them is likely to hurt you more than it hurts them. The Rhino boss was surprisingly not horrible, taking only 1 attempt. And Chocolate Island 4, where I faced another impossible jump. Same as all the others, it's just too far to make without running. I tried several times to ride the moles into the acid to leap from their skulls, but the second they hit the surface and start to dissolve, you fall right through them. Using the slide to gain momentum and make a large leap didn't work either. Chocolate 5 had, guess what, another one. I had a feeling going into this that the not running part would cause the most trouble. I just didn't expect it to ramp up so much this later into the game. Just like the last one, too far away. Not much else to say really. The rest of the level isn't anything crazy. Wendy's Castle is probably the most iconic castle in all of Super Mario World 6. The saw blades require a big boy jump, as does the jump to this platform, but the next one is too far to make without help from your legs. Again, I didn't think about a spin jump possibly working on that fire demon. I did figure out that you can do one on the saw blades though, so that's something. Now, as much as I detested this segment of the castle, I also enjoyed it a bit. It was one of the few levels where I really felt myself getting better with every attempt. The first time through is slow and cautious, but by 7 or 34, you're flying through it like it's nothing. Doing spin jumps on bolts of electricity, standing in place waiting for things to move. It's magnificent. Wendy wasn't that bad, similar to that pipe one from earlier, just flatter and with an extra projectile. The collapsed ship is mostly underwater until you reach this part where you fall through the crust of the earth into the Valley of Bowser. The star is non-negotiable, but you can navigate out of the way of the Koopas just fine. And at long last, we enter the Valley of Bowser. Super Mario World speedrunners usually agree that this is where the real game begins. VOB1 takes you on a tour of the mole hole, where they live in blind harmony with football players and leftover pocket change. The hard part of this level was figuring out where to go and what to do. Once you put all the pieces of the puzzle together, getting to the end isn't too bad. The first half of Valley of Bowser 2 is similar. Nothing about it is challenging, but your actions are dictated by the moving blocks, which are slow and annoying. There are also some very tight passageways in the next part. The good news is that you can hold forward and begin to move the exact instant you're able to. You don't have to try to time it. You either make it or you don't. It's not skill-based is what I mean. Until you get to this part, which is where the time thing destroys you. Spin jumping like a maniac works in the first block, but not in the second. Simple physics. You just can't make it far enough to not get squished without running. Use the mole as a stepping stone, and you can enter the last ghost house of the game. This is where the real game begins. And I mean that for real this time. To get to an exit, you have to hit this switch and run on the blocks before time runs out and they turn into coins. Go to the right and you won't get far enough to reach any of the useful doors. The only one you reach will send you back to the beginning. Go left and you won't get far enough to go through any door. That's basically it. The level requires that you run to make it to an exit. Find one and you're on to the next level, either Valley of Bowser 3 or a castle. I went to Valley 3, then decided that I hate this, so I went to the Ghost Castle again to find an exit to go straight to the castle. That was a lie. I didn't do that. As one of the 7 original gamers, I pride myself in not taking shortcuts or cheating. I tried Valley 3 again after sleeping the pain away and found that it was easier than I first thought. This pipe section is a little unpleasant. You've got to hit the 4 platform, jump onto the pipe, avoid the Koopa, and jump back onto the moving platform, all in about 3 seconds. After that, these Koopas might provide some level of a challenge if you're bad at games. And there's the Mega William. You can't make it to the next platform without landing on him. If you don't, you'll miss the jump. Valley of Bowser 4 also puts a hole in the heart of the no running challenge in its own way. This jump can't be made without running, or maybe landing on the turtle to get some air. Either way, it's a failure. For this one, you've got to jump off the platform at the last second, and also run for the same reason as the others. With this one, you have to spin jump on the boulder to not fall into the lava. Really, this entire level sucks. It's more difficult than you'd think for something in a kid's game. This one doesn't even have a platform. You've got to bounce off the flying demon just to reach the other platform. Upside is, we're in the end game. Larry's Castle is next. The first half is an easy roller coaster ride. The second half resurrects that wizard from a few castles ago. I really don't know what to say about this one. It was difficult, but not so much so that I couldn't handle it. Just, like, go slow. And with that, we arrive at Bowser's Castle, where the real game begins. After a few different attempts, I learned that door 4 was by far the simplest to get through of the first 4, and door 8 is the door 4 of the second quarter of this level. Avoiding the goalies requires a lot of mental fortitude, but it's not impossible. The disco ballroom isn't much harder than the average level. There are a couple spots where you've got to time your carefully to not land on an enemy, or to run under one right as it goes airborne, so you can make a jump of your own, but that's about it. Then, finally, there's Bowser himself. This was somehow both harder than I thought and easier than I thought. To start with, attacking enemies is required here. You can't damage Bowser without crippling his babies and throwing them back at his head. I had a heck of a time trying to get them to hit the big lizard in the first half of this fight, probably because I'm used to hard games like Meow Motors. Hit him a couple times, he breaks the fourth wall, sends down some candles from the heavens. You can avoid them if you put your back into it. The big bubbles can be spin jumped on as to become not die, and you've got to keep throwing his children into orbit. I would go so far as to say that this was more stressful than anything else. A simple f*** up sends you back to the start of the castle. The first 2 rooms are not a challenge, but it's time consuming to get back to the start of the fight. In the end, I landed what I can only assume was my 7th attack on him, and after countless deaths, I did not beat Super Mario World without attacking anything, without taking damage, without using power-ups, or without running. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the Champion tier supporters as well as other channel members for making videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server through a link in the video description. Follow me on Twitter @Mitten Squad if you're into that kind of thing. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.